The crash in Sector 9 was quiet. It was always quiet. No birds, no wind, just dry red dust blowing across dead rocks. John had worked here for almost 2 years. He was an engineer, fixing old machines in a forgotten mining colony on a faraway planet. No one came here. No one cared. And maybe that's why he liked it. John's life followed the same pattern every day. Wake up, check the oxygen levels, clean the solar panels, repair old mining bots. He didn't talk to anyone. There was no one to talk to. His only friend was an old radio which barely picked up signals from Earth. But that day, something changed. It started with a strange noise, a deep, low hum that shook the ground under his boots. John was inside the maintenance shed when the power flickered. Lights blinked, tools fell off the shelves. Earthquake? He muttered, stepping outside. But the sky told a different story. A ball of fire was racing across the sky, leaving a trail of smoke behind it. It was falling fast, too fast. John's eyes followed it until it vanished behind the hills. Then came the sound, a loud, thunderous crash that echoed through the empty valley. The ground shook again and dust flew into the air. John stood frozen for a moment. Then he ran. He grabbed his tool pack, jumped on his desert bike, and sped toward the crash site. His heart was beating fast, not from fear but from something else. Excitement, curiosity. This planet never had visitors. What had just fallen from the sky? After 20 minutes, he reached the crash site. Smoke was still rising from the rocks. Something had slammed into the side of a small hill, leaving a deep crater. Sharp metal pieces were scattered everywhere, parts of a ship, but not a human one. The design was strange, smooth black metal that shimmered slightly in the light. Symbols covered the sides, glowing, faint blue. John stepped closer. The ship was torn open from the crash. Inside, sparks flew from broken wires. A heavy silence filled the air, and then a sound, a soft, weak breath. John raised his flashlight and pointed it inside the wreck. There, half buried under fallen metal, was someone. Not human. Her skin was pale silver, almost glowing. Long, dark hair flowed over her shoulders. Her eyes were closed and strange markings ran down her arms like tattoos. She was badly hurt, blood dripping from her side. John's instinct screamed, "Leave! Report this! Call Earth Command!" But he didn't move. Something inside him said no. She was alive. She needed help. He stepped inside, carefully pulling the metal off her body. She groaned softly, her hand twitching. Her breathing was shallow. "You'll be okay," John whispered, not even sure why he said it. "I got you." He lifted her gently and carried her back to his bike. The ride back was slow. He didn't want to hurt her more. He kept checking if she was still breathing. Her skin was cold but soft, like moonlight. Once back at his station, John placed her on the medical table. Luckily, the colony still had working auto-med tools. He scanned her wounds and patched her up as best he could. The machines beeped and hissed, trying to understand her biology. John watched her sleep. Or was it healing? He didn't know. Aliens weren't real, right? At least that's what people back home always said. But here she was. As he sat beside her, something strange happened. The markings on her skin began to glow. A soft light ran through them, moving like tiny rivers. The room grew warmer. John leaned in, confused and fascinated. Suddenly her eyes opened. They were silver. Not just the iris, but the whole eye. Deep, ancient, knowing. She looked at him. Her lips moved, forming words he couldn't understand. A soft, musical language, like a song whispered by wind. I don't understand," John said softly. She touched his chest with a weak hand. Her fingers were cold. Then she said one word that shook him to the core. "Chosen." John blinked. "What?" Her eyes closed again, and she fell into a deep sleep. John sat back, heart racing. What did she mean? Why him? And what had he just brought into his home? Outside, in the distant sky, something moved. Far above the planet, hidden in the shadows, a dark shape floated silently. Someone else was coming. The Queen's secret. John didn't sleep that night. How could he? An alien queen, something out of fairy tales and nightmares, was lying unconscious in his tiny medical room. Outside, the cold wind of Sector 9 whispered through the cracks in the walls, but all he could hear was her voice. Chosen. What did she mean? John sat in the corner, his eyes fixed on her glowing tattoos. They pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Her skin looked peaceful now, but he remembered the fear in her eyes before she passed out. Not fear of him, but of something else. Something worse. By morning, the machine showed her body was stabilizing, faster than any human should heal. He didn't understand the science, but he understood one thing. She wasn't ordinary. John made some coffee. He sat by the window, staring at the sky. What if someone else had seen that crash? What if someone was looking for her? His thoughts were interrupted by a sound, soft breathing, shifting fabric, and then a voice. You speak human tongue? John spun around. She was awake. Her eyes locked onto his, silver and sharp, like blades dipped in light. She was sitting up, weak but alert. Yes, John said carefully. John, I found you. Your ship crashed. She looked down at her arm, at the glowing marks. They didn't find me, she whispered. You did. Who's they? John asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked around the room, her gaze falling on the tools, the screens, the cracked floor tiles. This place is not worthy of the bond, she said quietly. Bond? John repeated, stepping closer. She looked at him. There was sadness in her eyes. Deep, endless sadness. I am Queen Sela of the Elethari, last of the Silver Court. I carry the last crystal flame within me. And now, a piece of it lives in you. John froze. What does that mean? She raised her hand, and before he could move, she touched his forehead. His world exploded. In a second, he was no longer in Sector 9. He was floating in space, watching worlds burn. Alien cities crumbled under black ships. Fire rained from the sky. He saw her, Sela, standing on a throne of light, giving orders to warriors made of glass and wind. Then betrayal. A tall figure, wrapped in shadows, whispered something in her ear. And her people turned on her. The throne shattered. She ran. And she ran until only one ship was left. Her escape ship. John gasped, falling back to the ground as the vision ended. What? What was that? He asked, heart pounding. My memory, she said. I gave you a glimpse because you must understand. I am not here by accident. I crashed here. But fate brought me to you. John shook his head. Why me? I'm no one. You are someone now, she said. The bond has chosen you. My flame recognizes something in you, something human leaders will fear. Outside, a loud click echoed through the walls. They both froze. John ran to the monitor. Motion sensors at the edge of the mining field were blinking red. Something was moving fast. He turned to her. Is it your enemies? She stood slowly, her strength returning. They are called the Tsar. They were once our allies. Now they are hunters. They feed on power. If they find me, they will take the flame. They will destroy this planet. John's hands were shaking. I should call Earth Command. They won't help, she said. They will only want to study me. Cut me open, break me. John knew she was right. The people back home, politicians, generals, scientists, they would see her as a weapon, not a person. So what do? He asked. She looked at him, and for the first time she smiled. We run. They grabbed what little supplies they could. John packed tools, battery cells, and an old tracking jammer. Selah took nothing. She walked like someone who had lost everything, already. They left the station and headed toward the underground tunnels, the old mining shafts no one used anymore. Behind them, in the dust, a small black drone floated down from the sky. It scanned the area silently. Then it spoke in a cold, metallic voice. Target located. Queen Selah. Flame signature confirmed. The drone flew back up into the sky, and far above the clouds, in the dark orbit of the planet, a massive ship opened its eyes. The hunt had begun. Hunted, the tunnels were dark, cold, silent. Dust floated in the air like forgotten memories. Broken rails stretched into the shadows, left behind by miners who abandoned Sector 9 long ago. John's flashlight flickered as he led the way, while Selah walked behind him, her glowing skin lighting the narrow path like a ghost from another world. They had been walking for 2 hours, deeper and deeper underground. These tunnels go under the whole valley, John whispered. We'll be harder to track here, at least. I hope so. Selah didn't reply. She hadn't said much since they left the station. Her face was calm, but John could see it in her eyes. She was listening, watching, sensing something in the dark that he couldn't. They are close, she finally said. John stopped. How close? Too close. Above them, hidden beneath layers of rock and metal, the sky was no longer safe. High above the planet in orbit, the Tsar ship opened like a flower of shadows. It was massive, black and silent, without lights or sound. The ship did not fly. It drifted like a predator in deep water. Inside, the hunters prepared. They were not machines. They were not alive. Something in between. Tall silver creatures with no faces and blades for fingers. Their leader, known only as the Whisper, stood before a glowing screen. The Queen has bonded, the Whisper said. His voice was dry, like ashen wind. A human now carries the mark. One of the hunters turned its head. Shall we erase him? No, said the Whisper. We use him. Then we break him. Underground, John and Selah reached an old mining hub. The chamber was wide, with rusted machines and empty crates. John set down his bag, breathing hard. We can rest here for a bit, he said. You should sit. Selah didn't move. Instead, she walked to the center of the room, placed her palm on the floor, and closed her eyes. A soft hum filled the space. The ground beneath her glowed faintly, then darkened again. What was that? John asked. A warning, she said. If they come this way, I will feel them. John nodded. He sat down on a crate and rubbed his face. I never asked for this. I was just fixing machines. That's all I ever did. But you helped me, she said, looking at him. You made a choice when others would have run. Yeah, he said with a weak laugh. I still don't know why. Before she could answer, a sound echoed from the tunnel behind them, a faint click. Then another. John stood up slowly. Selah turned toward the noise. They're here. Suddenly, the lights in the chamber exploded. Darkness swallowed everything. Get down, John shouted. From the tunnel, a shape emerged. Tall, thin, glowing with pale blue veins. Tsar Hunter. It moved silently, blade arms dragging across the metal floor. John pulled out a mining torch and lit it. The flame hissed, casting wild shadows. The hunter turned its head, staring at John with eyeless focus. Human. Drop the Queen, it said in a flat voice. John stepped in front of Selah. Not happening. The hunter moved fast, faster than any creature should. But Selah was faster. She raised her hand and light shot from her palm like a spear, striking the hunter's chest. It staggered, sparks flying from its body. John leapt forward, slamming the torch into the hunter's side. Molten metal sprayed as it screamed, its voice sharp like broken glass. But more sounds came from the tunnel. More footsteps. More hunters. There's too many, John yelled. Selah grabbed his hand. Run! They fled through a side tunnel, the ground shaking behind them. Hunters followed, slicing through old pipes, sending steam and sparks everywhere. One hunter leapt forward, But John hit a control panel, slamming a metal door shut behind them. It wouldn't stop them for long, but it bought time. They reached an old lift shaft. The elevator was broken, but a narrow ladder ran along the wall. John looked up. "We climb." "You first," she said. He climbed fast, Sela right behind him. Below, metal screeched. The hunters were cutting through the door. Halfway up the shaft, a sudden shockwave hit the walls. Dust and stone fell. "They're using bombs," John shouted. The ladder shook. His grip slipped. He fell. But before he could hit the ground, something caught him. Soft, glowing light. He floated gently down, landing on the top floor. He looked up. Sela hovered above the ground, her arms glowing, her eyes shining like stars. "I forgot to tell you," she said softly. "I can fly." John blinked. "Okay, that's good to know." They ran again, this time through a narrow service tunnel that led to the surface. Finally, they emerged under the evening sky. But peace did not follow them. Above, in the clouds, a black dot grew, larger. A dropship. John grabbed Sela's arm. "They're sending more?" "No," she said. "That's not a hunter. That's something worse." The ship landed in the valley with a deep rumbling growl. The ground cracked. The air went silent. From the ship stepped a figure taller than any hunter, wrapped in shadows, face covered in silver bone, and in his hand, a staff made of living metal. "Who is that?" John asked, backing away. "That," she said, "is the whisper. The memory bond." The valley was silent, not the peaceful kind of silence. It was the kind that came before a storm, before something terrible. John stood next to Sela, breathing heavily. The sand beneath his boots trembled as the dropship fully opened. Dust swirled around them, and from the black smoke stepped the thing she had only whispered about until now. The whisper. He was tall, almost twice the height of a man, his body wrapped in flowing shadow. Parts of him looked like armor, other parts like moving mist. No face. No eyes. Only a smooth silver mask and a crown of black glass. In his hand, a living staff twisted like a snake, glowing blue at its tip. John felt cold just looking at him. "What? What is he?" John asked, his voice shaking. "He used to be one of us," Sela replied, her voice low. "Before he gave his soul to the dark." John glanced at her. "You mean, he's an Elethari?" "He was," she said. "Now he is something else, something hollow. He cannot be reasoned with, and he will not stop." The whisper raised his staff, and without a word he vanished. John turned in panic, looking around. "Where did he—" "Behind you," Sela shouted. John spun. The whisper was there, so fast, too fast. He swung his staff. John fell backward as a blast of force knocked the air out of his lungs. He hit the ground hard, choking. The whisper moved, toward Sela now, silent and deadly. But she was ready. She raised both hands, and light burst from her chest like a shield. It struck the whisper, and for the first time he stumbled. His mask cracked slightly. He hissed, an unholy, cold sound that made the ground quake. But he didn't attack again. Instead, he raised his hand and pointed at John. The flame chose. "Wrong," the whisper said, his voice like metal scraping stone. "This one is weak." Then he vanished, gone in a blink like smoke pulled by wind. The sky grew still. John coughed and sat up, still dazed. What just happened?" Sela knelt beside him, touching his shoulder. "He was testing you." "Testing me? For what?" She looked at him, her eyes softer than before. "For the memory bond." John stared at her, confused. "What is that?" She paused. Then she spoke. "Every Elethari queen holds memories, of battles, of peace, of wisdom from those before her. When the flame chooses someone outside our kind, that person must prove they can carry part of our mind, our history, our burden." John frowned. "But I don't even understand your world." "You don't have to," she said. "You only Have to open your mind. Before he could respond, she leaned forward, placed her fingers gently on his temple, and whispered a single word in her language. The world shattered. John was no longer in the valley. He stood in a great hall made of light and crystal, tall towers rising around him. Alien music played softly in the air like stars humming. Memories flooded his mind, not his memories. He saw Sela as a child, running through glowing gardens. He saw her trained by warrior monks with blades made of thought. He saw her crowned queen as her people knelt before her. And then he saw the fall, betrayal from within. Her brother, cloaked in greed and jealousy, poisoning their sacred flame. Cities burning, skies torn by war. The Whisper, once her most loyal general, now corrupted, dragging thousands into darkness. He saw Sela escape in a single ship, her people dying to protect her, and finally, the crash. His face, his hands lifting her, and her heart knowing. He was the one the flame had whispered about in the ancient songs. John fell to his knees. The vision ended. He was back in the valley, gasping for breath, tears in his eyes. Sela stood, above him, watching him carefully. "You saw?" she asked softly. John nodded. I don't know how to explain it. It felt like living 1,000 lives in 1 second. "That is the memory bond," she said. "You carry a piece of me, now, and I carry a piece of you." John wiped his face, stunned. "Is that why the Whisper didn't kill me?" "He fears what we might become," she said. "Together we are a bridge, a threat. And that means—" John looked up. "He's going to come harder next time." "Yes," Sela said, "and we must move before he finds us again." As they gathered their supplies, a faint beep came from John's communicator. A message. John opened it. Emergency signal detected. Unidentified. Lifeform registered. Sector 9, command unit inbound. John's face turned pale. "Earth command," he muttered. "They're coming." Sela looked at him, her voice suddenly colder. "Will they help us?" John didn't answer right away. He stared at the message, thinking about how Earth would react to what she truly was. "No," he said quietly. "They'll want to lock you away, study you, maybe worse." "Then we leave," she said. John looked at her, something new in his eyes, something stronger than fear. "No," he said. "We fight!" The last stand at Sector 9 was no longer silent. Ships were coming. War was coming. But John and Sela had already made their choice. They were done running. They were going to stand and fight. The sky above the valley was split now, 2 worlds staring at each other. One cold and distant, sending down a military dropship from Earth. The other dark and ancient, watching silently through the eyes of the Whisper, who had returned to his shadowed throne high above the planet. And in between them, a broken colony. And 2 people who shouldn't have mattered, but somehow they did. John returned to the station, the one he used to call home. The doors were barely hanging, the power weak. But he knew every corner of this place, every wire, every tool, every hidden backup system long forgotten. "We don't have an army," he told Sela, pulling out crates of old mining gear. "But we've got machines, bots, drills, scanners, and me. And me," she added, placing her hand on a metal wall. The surface glowed under her touch. Old systems that hadn't worked in years suddenly hummed back to life. Together they began preparing. They rebuilt the defense grid. John reprogrammed old mining bots to carry weapons. He welded broken panels, turned cranes into swinging traps, and loaded fuel tanks into tripwire bombs. Sela infused the systems with her energy, enhancing their range, their strength. She connected to the colony's satellite dish and turned it into a pulse emitter, one that could disable Tsar scouts mid-air. By nightfall, the broken station looked less like a workplace and more like a fortress. "This might actually work," John said, sweating, tired but smiling. Sela looked out at the horizon. "They'll come from both sides," she said. "The Whisper from above, and your people and from below. John nodded. And neither one of them will like what they find here. At dawn, the storm began. A deep rumble shook the ground. Tsar, hunters landed first, black and sharp like falling blades. They moved fast, their long limbs slicing through the valley. But this time, John was ready. Now, he shouted. A trap detonated. An entire ridge collapsed, burying 2 hunters under rocks. Another bot rolled forward, firing a torch flame at a charging unit. Sela stepped into the field, her hands glowing. With a single motion, she sent a wave of light that melted one of the hunters where it stood. But there were more, too many. And then, the Earthship landed. Earth command officers spilled out wearing heavy armor, shouting orders. They weren't here to help. They had guns aimed at everyone. "Put down your weapons," one shouted. "Step away from the alien." John stepped forward, furious. "She's not your enemy, they are." He pointed to the Tsar troops now turning toward the human soldiers, but the commander didn't care. "You are harboring a hostile life form. Earth Command will take her into custody." "If you take her," John growled, "you doom everyone here." Before the officer could answer, the sky cracked open. The Whisper had arrived. His ship didn't land. It just hovered like a god made of shadows. From it, he descended slowly, wrapped in smoke and silence. The Earth soldiers turned, confused. "What is that?" the commander asked. Sela's voice rang out. "That is your death if you don't listen." The Whisper raised his staff. With a pulse of dark energy, he crushed a tank with invisible force. Soldiers screamed. Bots were torn apart. The air itself turned heavy and hot. "You can't fight him with bullets," John shouted. "Fall back." But chaos had already begun. Amid the smoke and fire, John and Sela stood back to back, defending what was left of the station. A bot exploded beside them. A hunter charged. John tackled it with a mining arm, while Sela blasted it with a final burst of her power. She fell to her knees, weak. "You're fading," John said, rushing to her. "I gave too much," she whispered. "I cannot hold the flame much longer." "Don't say that," John said. "We're not done." But deep down he could feel it too. She was burning from the inside. Not in pain, but like a candle running out of time. And then, something changed. A hum filled the air. Not from the station, not from the ships, from John. His chest lit up, the flame inside him, dormant until now, awakened. Sela looked up, eyes wide. "It's transferring. To you." John gasped as light surged through his body. Visions, energy, power, rushing into him like a second heartbeat. He stood slowly, eyes glowing. The Whisper turned his head. "Impossible," he said. "You are not Elithari." "No," John said. "I'm something new." In that moment, John wasn't just an engineer. He was a hybrid of 2 worlds. He stepped forward, unafraid. The Whisper attacked, but John caught the energy midair and bent it backward. The blast struck the Whisper's ship, tearing into it. Sela watched from the ground, her eyes full of tears. Not from pain, from hope. John moved like light itself, striking, dodging, channeling energy from machines, from memory, from her. He wasn't fighting alone. He was fighting with her. The battle was far from over. But the tide had turned, and somewhere deep in the core of the planet, the flame of the Elithari had chosen a new path. Not blood, not war, but a bond, and bonds cannot be broken. The Moon of Secrets, the battle at Sector 9 had changed everything. John was no longer just a man. He was the flame's carrier now, half human, half Elithari. Something new, something untested, and the Whisper had vanished, but not defeated. They both knew he would return. Sela lay in the shadows of the broken station, her energy drained, her connection to the flame almost gone. The bond between her and John had saved them, but it had also weakened her. She needed to heal. She needed the mother crystal. It lies on our old moon, she whispered. The moon of Vilas, where our ancestors once built cities of light, and where the first flame was born. John looked at the stars above, then back at the wreckage around them. Then we go, he said. It's not that simple, she warned. The moon is not empty. It is awake. They took a hidden transport, long buried beneath the colony. Sela guided the ship, her fading power still strong enough to open the sky paths left behind by her people. As they flew, John saw it for the first time, Valus, the Eletheri moon. It glowed faintly in the darkness, wrapped in rings of crystal dust and ruins that floated around it like shattered memories. Towers half buried in rock, orbiting stones carved with ancient symbols, pieces of a once great world now forgotten. This place, John whispered. What happened here? We did, Sela replied, her voice low. We built too much, wanted too much. The flame gave us power, but it also gave us pride. What's left now? Secrets, she said, and something that never stopped watching. They landed in the ruins of a temple, tall black stone covered in alien vines. Strange whispers echoed through the halls, not voices, but memories. Sela moved carefully. John stayed close. What are we looking for? He asked. The heart of Valus, she said. Where the mother crystal sleeps. If it accepts you, it may restore me. And if it doesn't? Sela stopped. Then we both fade, and the flame dies with us. The deeper they went, the colder it got. The walls were alive with glowing veins. Every step brought more pressure, not physical, but mental. Thoughts began to bleed into each other. John could feel her memories again, and she could feel his loneliness, his pain, his childhood on Earth, a broken home, always fixing things because nothing else ever worked. He looked at her. Are you doing this? No, she said. The temple is. Finally, they reached it. Chamber so vast it had no roof. Above them, stars looked down through a dome of crystal. And at the center, floated a shard the size of a mountain. The mother crystal. It pulsed like a beating heart, casting shadows across walls covered in ancient writing. John stepped forward. Immediately, the air changed. The crystal reacted to him. A hum began, low, curious, almost questioning. Sela reached out to him. If you go further, you open yourself completely to it. It will see your soul. It will see everything. John took a breath, then let it. See? He walked toward the light. The crystal flared. And then, John was somewhere else. He stood in a garden of stars. Time didn't move. Voices whispered in languages he didn't understand, yet somehow knew. Visions poured into him. He saw the first Elethari, shaped from flame and thought. He saw their rise, their fall, but he also saw something hidden, something Sela never showed him, a secret she had buried deep. She had met a human before, years ago, long before the crash, an explorer, lost in space. She saved him too, but he betrayed her. He gave information about her kind to the Tsar, and that betrayal led to the war, the death, the flames' collapse, and she had sworn, never again, never to trust another human, until John. The visions ended. He stood still, heart pounding. Sela waited near the chamber entrance, watching him. He walked toward her slowly. You didn't tell me, he said. She looked away. I thought I could forget. I didn't know the crystal would show you. Why did you let me bond with the flame if you didn't trust me? Because, she said softly, when I looked at you, I didn't see a human. I saw hope. They stood in silence for a moment, and then the chamber shook. A dark presence entered the moon. The whisper had arrived. From the shadows, his voice echoed through the halls. You opened the heart, he hissed. Good. Now, I will take it. Selah turned to John. He can't touch the crystal. It rejected him long ago. But now, with you linked to it, he may try to force the bond. John looked back at the crystal. Then let's make sure he never gets the chance. He walked toward the center again, his hands glowing. Behind him, Selah stood tall, her strength returning slowly. But before they could act, the whisper appeared. His mask cracked, his voice louder. You are not a king, he snarled. You are a tool. John turned. Then I'll be the tool that breaks your empire. The final bond was forming. Crystal, flame, man, queen. And war was coming to Valus. But not just to destroy. This time. To decide everything. Her request. The heart of the moon glowed with ancient light. Around it shadows danced. In front of it stood two souls bound by fire. Behind them, death was coming. John could feel the weight of the mother crystal pressing against his chest, not crushing but pulling, like it recognized him now, like it had accepted what he was becoming. Part human, part flame, part memory. And in the dark, the whisper moved closer, step by step, his cracked mask dripping with ancient anger. Give me the queen, he said, and I will leave this place untouched. John didn't move. Liar. Your species lies more than any other. The whisper hissed. You wear false skins, pretend to love, to save, but you always destroy. John stepped forward. And yet, you're the one trying to steal power that doesn't belong to you. The whisper raised his staff. It began to hum. I was meant for the flame. It was mine first. No, Selah's voice rang out clear and sharp. You were meant to protect it, and you turned your heart into a weapon. The whisper looked at her, silent for a beat. You were always too soft, Selah, too trusting. John's fists clenched. Trust is not weakness. No, the whisper said. But it will get you killed. He struck. A bolt of shadow blasted. From his staff aimed at Selah, John moved without thinking. A wall of flame burst from his body, blocking the attack mid-air. The shock threw him backward, but he stood again, burning brighter. Your power grows, the whisper said, tilting his head. But your body is still flesh. It will fail. John smiled, even through the pain. Maybe. But not today. The battle began. The chamber shook as light and dark collided. Selah fought with precision, her every move guided by memory and grace. Her powers returned slowly, fueled by the nearness of the crystal. John moved like fire unleashed, raw, instinctive, untrained, but driven by something the whisper couldn't understand. Love, not romance. Not desire, but the kind of love that is born when two broken souls find something whole in each other. They struck the whisper together, again and again. But he kept rising. No matter how much they burned him, the shadows around him kept rebuilding. His body, his soul, however twisted, was still bound to the flame from long ago. You can't destroy me, he said. I am the other half of the flame. Selah looked at John. He's right. John turned, confused. What do you mean? The crystal split long ago. Half chose me, half chose him. But now, both halves want you. John stepped back. What are you saying? The flame doesn't want a queen, she whispered. It wants a new beginning. John looked between her and the whisper. And then, he understood. You knew, he said. Selah nodded. The moment you touched me back on Sector 9, the moment I saw your soul. John's chest felt heavy. So what now? What does the flame want me to do? Her eyes softened. It wants you to choose. The whisper raised his staff for one final strike. But he was too late. The mother crystal pulsed. Brighter, louder. John stepped forward, both hands open. One held fire, the other held peace. No more war, he said. Then looking at Selah, what's your request? Her voice shook. Be the bridge, she said, between what we were and what we could be. Carry me forward not as a queen, but as a voice, a memory, a bond. John felt tears in his eyes. Will I lose you? She smiled. Not with her lips, but with her soul. You'll carry me, always. John walked into the light. It wrapped around him, burned through him, and then exploded. The whisper screamed, his mask breaking apart, shadows fleeing like smoke. His connection shattered. His body turned to dust. The battle was over. Silence. The mother crystal dimmed. Selah's body faded gently, like mist in morning sun. And John stood alone. But he wasn't truly alone. He could feel her inside him now. Her voice, her thoughts, her strength, not controlling him, but walking beside him. Weeks later, Earth Command sent a message. They wanted to know what happened. John didn't answer. Instead, he stood at the edge of the ruins on Valis, looking at the stars. The flame now burned quietly within him, not like a weapon, but a beacon for peace, for unity, for something better. Maybe one day, he would return to Earth. Maybe one day, humans and Elithari could stand side by side. But for now, he had work to do, a galaxy to heal, a promise to keep, and a memory to carry, forever. The end.